Also around this theme is to think a little bit about how we cultivate not just physical energy, but the energy of aspiration. And what I mean by that is the energy of our practice as rooted in an aspiration, in adhitthana. Adhitthana is a Sanskrit term that means resolve, resolve to practice. It's sort of a will, it's a dedication um, for the fruits of practice, meaning that if we sit, our agenda may be to calm the mind, to kind of quiet a bit by sitting and just to get some peace. And what we're really doing there is opening up to a part of us that is already peaceful and connecting with something deeper rather than getting something over here and putting it in ourselves. What we're doing is wanting to settle into. There's a part of us that knows that there is this sort of center that is already peaceful. Otherwise, we could never change it, right? We would just constantly be restless. And if we didn't have the center of peacefulness already there, we wouldn't be able to settle into anything other than more unsettledness, right? So sometimes it doesn't take much, but that's proof, that's empirical proof that we can do this, and that part of our nature is already self-evident in being peaceful. Um, so we may be that may be our aspiration to be peaceful, and that sense of recognition of the peacefulness at the center of the mind also opens the doorway for our possibility that we can also sort of go beyond just a peaceful state, but experience more of that mind that is already peaceful. We may not know what that means. We don't want to intellectualize it too much, but there is something else that arises in that experience of settling into a peaceful mind. Is it just a peaceful mind? Is it a closed system? Or are we settling into a state in which um, the body settles, the mind settles, our heart opens, and we relate differently to that which is around us? Maybe we're relating now, we're sensing something of the interdependence of life. You see, it's not just peacefulness, but it impacts, the access of peacefulness impacts other states in a good way. So that's what I mean by adhitthana being a dedication, not just for peacefulness, but also for the fruits of what else we can cultivate. Um, and the other term is pranidhana. So if you've ever practiced yoga, one of the stages, Ishvara pranidhana, meaning devotion to God, basically, to practicing devotion to God. In Buddhism, you have devotion to a guru, for example. And in Buddhism, the word pranidhana largely is also aspirational, but it really pertains more to the aspiration of being compassionate, of living a life from compassion, living a life that benefits others. So adhitthana is that aspiration to awaken. Uh, it's that resolve, that will, that impulse to awaken that is very natural, very wholesome. Pranidhana is almost the devotional quality to cultivating a life of service and compassion. So they're both similar, but slightly different in terms of the nuances. Have you ever tried to open a jar with your entire body? A tight jar. Your hands may be the only thing grasping the jar, but your entire body is trying to open it. All that energy, all that tension. The teeth are gritting. The toes are gripping the earth. The shoulders are hunched. The brow is furrowed. Everything is contracting. The energy is going everywhere, and it just won't open. Why is everything throwing energy everywhere but where it needs to be? Right in the hands on the jar. You can try this, experiment with this. I promise you, you will probably feel a difference if you consciously open a jar rather than The gallant young knight who gets up on his horse and gallops in all directions. So, I love that analogy. Next time you need to open a tight jar, it's a great teaching because if you can just focus for a moment and take all of that energy that would otherwise be going into everything else as you contract to open the jar, just be relaxed in every part of your body, channel all of that energy into your hands and push or pull or twist or whatever and pop. You may notice you have more strength in your hands, right? Because it's not going everywhere. I have experienced this many times. Your teeth will be happier, your toes will be happier, your shoulders will be happier, and you'll be happier because the Rouse marinara sauce is now open and you can make dinner. So, great example. The mind, our thoughts, our feelings, our reactions, our responses are constantly taking so much energy and putting them into so many places, right? This third factor of awakening invites us to practice mindfully by knowing, where is my energy going in this moment? Where is my energy going? Where is all the effort right now? I may be sitting in meditation, my aspiration here, that of adhitthana, the vow to awaken, to be peaceful, to abide in calm abiding, and the vow of pranidhana, the dedication to living a compassionate life as a motivator, may all be alive. And yet, all this mental energy, what we call monkey mind, right? Boom, 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 flying everywhere, the agitation, the restlessness, continuing even on the cushion. Much of this is a habit. Much of this is just, we're not present when we're doing this, right? We're somewhere else. If we were fully present, um, we would realize, oh, I'm here on a cushion and things are hopefully quiet. But instead, I'm trying to open the jar of my meditation with all this tension and all of this striving and trying. I may even be applying that to my meditation, trying to control the practice. Here's the outcome I want. Here's how I want to feel. Here are the expectations. This must change me now. Yeah? We all go through this. And if it doesn't happen, I will be disappointed. I don't want to waste my time by having a crappy meditation and then getting up, going into life, and still feeling miserable. How many people have had that? I have. So, interesting to watch the energy flow. My teacher, Leslie, who I often talk about, had a great term, impeccability. Impeccability when it comes to energy. And this is the quality of what she called energy management, minding our energy, a nice balance so that, yes, we have enough vitality, we have enough effort to do the things we need to do, and yet all else being in a sense of effortlessness and flow. It's amazing how we may feel that way. And hopefully, some of you had that experience during the spinal breathing where you were able to kind of start letting go, to kind of start relinquishing, just all of that tension, all that contraction, all the worry, all of these things that we live with. Um, but an enormous amount of energy is used in our thinking process, in our reactivity, in our disliking, in our evaluating, in even the seeking and the striving. So when we meditate, we really want, um, I think all of us want to be free in some way. And yet it's not so simple because there's still so much energy going into holding the things we don't like, holding the painfulness, holding the sorrow, the grief perhaps, the traumas we've experienced. Yes, absolutely. This is resilience at work in some ways. And yet, the thing to remember here is that certain things that we can notice in our practice, um, things that are draining our energy, we need to look at. Things that are, nobody's talking about stop coping, stop using your coping mechanisms. No, 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 no. Respect them. That is the key. We respect our coping mechanisms, but we also want to see, where is my energy getting sucked out of me? Maybe I'm externalizing it. Some of us um, live where we just give out all this energy when we're with other people, and then we get exhausted. Some of us feed off of the energy. We like to take it from other people. But where is the balance where we are in a good kind of wholesome metabolism of the vitality of our life and of balancing these things? So in Tibetan Buddhism, there's this analogy of the eagle for meditation when we're sitting. If you've ever noticed a bird, I talk about this often too. If you've ever noticed an eagle, or you could use a seagull at the beach, it kind of seagull has eagle in it with an S in the beginning. So, it works. But a bird that hovers, right? Borne by the wind, just kind of hanging there. It's not flapping its wings madly to stay up. It doesn't have to. But it does need enough energy to keep its wings stretched so that it just hangs there. And occasionally it does a little bit of effort. So there's enough effort to keep the wings stretched out, and yet otherwise effortlessly carried by the wind with a clear, sharp eye on movement below. So clarity, just enough effort, otherwise abiding in effortlessness. These are the three qualities that are very important for meditation. And so it's a wonderful metaphor for our practice to find that balance between effort and effortlessness and clarity within our practice. Now, an eagle may be looking for something to eat, so it has a very practical reason for doing this and for having such keen eyesight. But in a way, we are doing something similar. We are looking for movement. We are looking to metabolize the things that are still left undone in the mind, right? And rather than running from them or continuing to feed them energy or fight them or just follow them off, we sort of hold that balance and see what arises with the quality of clarity and with this aspect of adhitthana and pranidhana, the aspect of the resolve that I will look at this because I want to be peaceful and I want to be awake. And by metabolizing what arises, this is more possible than it was before. By pranidhana, the devotion to that endeavor through compassion and also being of benefit to others in the process. Um, both are aspirations. Now, what about when we don't feel like doing any of this? This is often where we get stuck. It's like, great, all of these things are wonderful, but I don't feel like doing it, and it takes effort just to go and sit on the cushion, and it's just one more thing that I have to struggle with or strive for. And so here, the lesson is just make this the one thing that is effortless in your life, and you may see you don't want to do that either, to let go. And so here again, just having a little bit of mindfulness. Where's my energy going? You don't have to judge it. It's not good or it's never good or bad. It's not a moral thing. Just notice, where is it going here? Where is all the effort? And can I simply let go of that for 10 minutes? Maybe I go and I do the spinal breathing and I come out of it and I'm more energized. I have more of a sense of vitality. Um, Part of the issue is that we live in a world of active energy. Our environments are very active. There's a lot going on interpersonally and out in the collective, wherever we may be. And so it's hard not to sort of fall into that again, that momentum. So the key here isn't avoidance, but it's really finding two things: freshness and flow. Freshness and flow. And by freshness, I mean is coming back to a sense that this moment is always renewed. This moment is always a renewal, because when we meditate, for example, we can imagine that our practice will be fresh. Every time we sit, it will be fresh. We will encounter our awareness in this moment, not the awareness from yesterday or tomorrow, but allow it to be spontaneous, fresh, and and bright in this moment now, and flow, meaning that I can still act, I can still perform duties and attend to practical things, but when I'm not trying so hard or striving so heavily, all of a sudden things feel easier to do. I've practiced this also on the tennis court. Um, and I love to play tennis. And actually, I was talking to Jim the other day when the raindrops started falling. I was on the phone and I said, Jim, let me call you back in a half an hour because the rain is coming and I want to get some. I was hitting against a hitting wall, practicing my swing. And he's like, yeah, okay, I need to do something too for a while. And so I started practicing and I practiced that. I practiced not trying to place the ball, not trying to force it or control it, but rather seeing how the natural flow of non striving affected my swing. My wrist was looser. I could just kind of move, you know, get a little more power out of a looser wrist. I had less effort to get a stronger shot. And so if you ever watch tennis or anything else that is dynamically sort of being done by professional athletes and such, you can find that easing off of it a bit. Then you can find more flow. Of course, then without warning, the skies opened up and I got utterly, utterly drenched, like I had just stepped out of a swimming pool. And I had to go and collect all my balls. My racket was soaked, my clothes were soaked. Anyway, it was interesting. So I called Jim back and I said, okay, now I'm drenched. Anyway, I'm glad I had him there to vent about after that in the car. So anyway, the point here is nuancing a bit. Um, and we may not feel like doing that, but when we do it, we realize, oh, here's the benefit. Here's the benefit. Right effort in Buddhism on the Eightfold Path is really about being conscious of where our effort, where our energy is going, and also not squandering that energy, but holding it close as a precious jewel. Hold your vitality, your effort lovingly, the energy that you have, either to be available to others or be available to yourself. Allow that to be fresh. Allow it to be very, very precious. So we need, if nothing else, meditation can be a moment where we regather that energy and just hold it preciously. In that renewal, we are almost reborn in that moment. Um, the other part of energy balance is equanimity, the quality called equanimity, which is largely a sense of being able to bear witness from a neutral state, a state in which awareness has no preference. What thought arises? Good thought, bad thought, simply thought. What feeling arises? Whether it's good feeling, bad feeling, doesn't matter. It's simply feeling. Whether a sensation, and so on. Do I need it to be quiet, or is there a sound in the distance? No matter. Hearing. Just hearing. Hearing puts us in the moment. Even if it's a loud motorcycle, rejoice. I am here now because of the sound I am experiencing. I'm not off in some imagined future. I'm not in some painful past. I am here. Um, that equanimity helps us to become more balanced, right? Because we're no longer in a state of needing one thing and rejecting another. We're simply abiding in what we might call a neutrality, a witnessing, a bearing witness in a neutral way, but in a way that is highly engaged, highly present, and very clear. The quality of that underlying mind is deeply loving and compassionate and very, very clear and unaffected by all of those projections from the gross mind onto the subtle mind. It doesn't happen. The clouds don't reshape the sky. The sky remains. That's the good news. It remains still, it remains clear, open, and bright. This is the quality of mind, underlying quality of mind. And so here, The last thing I'll say is the vitality, the inspiration are self evident in this quality of mind. So when we finally settle, we may find that, wow, there is a renewing of this energy. There is a renewing of my inspiration to practice. And it may take a while to kind of get through dullness, maybe even apathy, just because we're so exhausted of dealing with these things and dealing with life. We need refuge, and we need a practice, a sacred space within which to practice and to be able to let go and come back to that innermost nature that then fuels us from the inside out in such a way that we go, oh, right, I remember this. This is good. This is good. And from there, the resolve of adhitthana, the dedication, why we're on the path at all, maybe even remembering we're on a path to awaken, to be peaceful, to be abiding in a mind that is not filled with projections, but really unconditionally open and clear. And then pranidhana, the heart devotion, the dedication to be of benefit to others. There is a parable in Buddhism, the parable of the lute, where the Buddha tells us that your meditation should be finely tuned, like the string of a lute, not too tight, not too loose, just right. So let's do whatever we need to do in our practice to do spinal breathing, play music, whatever we need to do to be tuned just right. And that is the way in to impeccability and to sort of the revitalization that our mind needs in the midst of its own samsaric suffering.